If Prince William's midnight note to Princess Anne ever sees daylight, royal rules that have lasted for centuries could snap before most of us pour the first cup of coffee. One small envelope, sealed in red wax and packed with just 11 rushed lines, might carry enough weight to rewrite the Windsor story faster than the shock abdication of 1936. Picture the future king bent over a desk past midnight, scribbling words that cut straight to the heart of power, then sliding that note into his aunt's steady hands, setting off a chain reaction that silent palace halls have not felt in decades. Stay with me, because in the next few minutes, we'll dig into why that late-night handoff set palace corridors buzzing, how its bold ideas could tilt the whole line of succession, and what it signals for Prince William's reign, Princess Anne's relentless work ethic, and every cherished tradition, from trooping the color to Christmas at Sandringham, that the crown holds dear. Buckle up. Those 11 lines may be short, but the shockwaves they promise are anything but. For half a century, Anne has shouldered more engagements than any other royal, pinning medals with surgeon-level precision, opening lifeboat stations in gale-force rain, and never once leaking palace gossip. William has long admired her iron credo: show up, shake hands, get the job done, spare the drama, yet protocol always cast him as student and her as mentor. William's note turned that hierarchy upside down, proposing a two-headed command in which status bends to service and age to innovation. Those 11 lines, still locked in an iron safe somewhere deep inside Windsor Castle, outline a sweeping operation insiders dub Mission Streamline. With King Charles's health wobbling after punishing months of treatment and duty, William argues the monarchy must modernize at Formula One speed or risk stalling altogether. He invites Anne to lead a ruthless thinning of patronages, collapsing hundreds of little-known charities into a handful of powerhouse foundations, publishing forensic accounts online, and refocusing royal muscle on 3 pillars: mental health, climate resilience, and poverty relief. He ends with a pledge in his own hand: if I must wear a crown, let it sit lighter on Britain's shoulders. Anne read the words twice, then a third time, hearing echoes of the oath she took as a girl. To serve the sovereign, yes, but always the people first. Tradition dictates change should creep through palace corridors like ivy, centimeter by centimeter. William's proposal roared in like a North Sea squall, yet the line that hooked her deepest was deceptively gentle: we either evolve by choice or be reshaped by crisis. In that moment, 2 of the hardest-working Windsors forged an alliance that could rescue the crown, or rip it at the seams. The very next morning, Anne canceled 2 vineyard openings in Kent, boarded a helicopter to Windsor, and requested an immediate audience with the king. Onlookers saw her stride across the quadrangle, trenchcoat whipping like a battle pennant. Court insiders later described raised voices spilling beneath gilded doors, then an uncanny hush. Mere hours later, the palace press office issued a 24-word statement confirming Anne would conduct a strategic review of royal duties in partnership with the Prince of Wales. Decoded, it meant the monarch's trusted sister had been handed the keys to the family business. Across Britain, front pages exploded. "And the axe!" shrieked one tabloid. "William's quiet coup!" boomed another. Morning broadcast panels asked whether this hinted at abdication or merely sensible housekeeping. Meanwhile, private secretaries in every royal residence tore through leather-bound diaries, flagging engagements once booked 2 years in advance. Garden parties vanished from calendars, ribbon cuttings hung in limbo, and the normally metronomic royal schedule dissolved into unnerving silence. The shockwaves slammed hardest at Sandringham, where Prince Andrew discovered several of his surviving patronages were marked for consolidation. William's blueprint demands transparent audits, online financial dashboards, and measurable impact metrics, standards likely to squeeze out any charity tainted by controversy or inefficiency. Some courtiers viewed it as the final polite shove, pushing Andrew out of public view. Others saw only William's methodical plan to cauterize reputational wounds before they poisoned the next reign. Far beyond British shores, Commonwealth realms dissected every rumor. Australian Republicans crowed that the monarchy was scrambling for relevancy. Canadian columnists praised William's pragmatism. Caribbean leaders insisted that talks on reparations be threaded into the new streamlined agenda. All the while, Anne assembled a war room team of palace economists, digital transparency gurus, and crisis logisticians drawn from her beloved Save the Children network. Over tower-high spreadsheets, she wielded a red pen as sharp as any cavalry saber. Inside Kensington Palace, William managed a delicate front of his own. Catherine, still recovering from abdominal surgery, poured over drafts of a televised address the couple intended to give once the dust settled. Their script commits to doubling investment in early childhood mental health, accelerating green tech grants, and turning redundant state apartments into co-working incubators for social impact entrepreneurs. A vision that sounds more Silicon Valley than St. James's says. William is wagering that a monarchy which outpaces cynics on social justice cannot be blown over by the next scandal storm. Needless to say, resistance stiffened like starched collars. Traditionalist courtiers warned that paring pomp too far risks unraveling the theatrical fabric. Tourists cross oceans to glimpse scarlet uniforms, sparkling tiaras, balcony waves under summer skies. Donors to niche charities feared they would wither if rolled into mega foundations. Suppliers of livery uniforms and carriage restorations lobbied MPs about potential job losses. In Westminster's oak-paneled committee rooms, Republican MPs booked fresh debates on full abolition, sensing vulnerability. Anne refused to hide. She summoned skeptics to Clarence House for a sealed-door summit. Foregoing titles, she slid William's envelope to the table's center and read his closing sentence aloud. The monarchy must breathe the same air as the people, or it will suffocate beneath velvet and gold. The chamber fell still. Even the stiffest traditionalist couldn't shrug off the moral freight of those words. By dusk, she had carved out a 12-month pilot window. Either the Windsor reset would prove itself swiftly or die on the laboratory bench. Social media went thermonuclear. TikTok stitched decades-old footage of Anne riding Olympic-level horses to dubstep soundtracks, branding her the royal reformer. Gen Z pundits cheered. Boomer monarchists fretted. Pollsters saw the nation split almost straight down the middle, 48% hopeful, 45% fearful, the rest frozen with confusion, yet fascinated enough to keep watching. The first public stress test arrived on Commonwealth Day. Instead of the usual procession of 40-odd relatives in morning coats and feathered hats, only 10 senior royals attended Westminster Abbey. Cameras pivoted to an interactive live stream where William fielded a Kenyan nurse's question on vaccine equity, while Anne vowed an inspection tour of Caribbean hurricane recovery clinics. Fewer bodies occupied the pews, but online viewership tripled the record, proof that slimming ceremonial fat doesn't have to starve global audiences. Behind those screens, William rehearsed a second note, this one addressed directly to the British people. Alone in a modest study, he paced between dusty portraits of monarchs who once steered the ship through plague, blitz, and industrial revolution. His line, "We honor tradition best by ensuring it serves, never suffocates, the generation that inherits it," felt like a calling card for the century. Advisors begged him to add softer language. He refused. Catherine quietly resized the teleprompter font, trusting his cadence to land the blow exactly where it must. On the road, Anne tested the human side of reform. Touring Glasgow in a recycled navy coat, she lingered at factory gates, swapping stories about energy bills. She knelt at a school to ask a shy 8-year-old how exams were going. Reporters noted fresher warmth layered atop her granite efficiency. When an elderly spectator pressed a trembling hand into hers and whispered, "Please don't vanish behind spreadsheets," Anne squeezed back and said, "Service is flesh and blood before it's ink and numbers. I'll always show up." New budgets began bending to the reset. Royal collection masterpieces rotated into humbler regional museums, seldom used coach houses repurposed into STEM labs for inner-city teens. 10,000 acres of Balmoral were rewilded in partnership with community cooperatives. The civil list unveiled monthly spending dashboards coded for layperson eyes. Every pound spent on travel, every garden party canapé accounted for. Editorialists labeled it the Great Unveiling, a transparency jolt unseen since Magna Carta. Yet storms gathered. A leaked diplomatic cable showed foreign governments eyeing the transition as leverage in trade negotiations. Paparazzi camped outside Windsor, hungry for a single slip, a private helicopter hop, a diamond-clasped gala gown, to paint the reformers hypocritical. William countered by commanding short-haul royal journeys, shift a train unless terrorism threat demanded otherwise. He personally boarded the 7:42 a.m. to Manchester, taking a standard-class seat, chatting Premier League scores with startled commuters. Queen Camilla, long caricatured as aloof, surprised pundits by delivering a speech firmly backing the overhaul. She spoke of knights watching Charles battle exhaustion, praised William and Anne for carving a monarchy that will outlive us by speaking the urgent language of today. Analysts said her endorsement pinned official royal authority to the project even before Charles affixed any seal. The nation then braced for trooping the color, traditional litmus of royal splendor. Speculation raged. Would William, astride military charger, present the salute in place of an ailing king? Would the balcony hold a sleek, minimal lineup? Would electric escort vehicles glide beside centuries-old regiments? Tickets disappeared in minutes. Drone crews rehearsed choreographed aerial shots touting a greener parade for a greener crown. Trooping day dawned crystal clear, as if the weather itself sensed momentous change. The spectacle was leaner, shorter route, solar-powered amplification towers, regimental bands mixing Elgar with modern strings, yet goosebumps thrummed up the mall. At the pivotal moment, William halted his horse, not saluting the balcony but bowing his head directly toward Anne, riding beside him in Blues and Royals uniform. Cameras captured a subtle nod between them, the unspoken text of that secret note manifested in steel flash and shared resolve. That evening, William addressed the nation from a lamplit study bare of gilded thrones. He spoke of climate anxiety, cost of living pain, digital overload. He pledged lighter pomp, heavier purpose, and lauded Princess Anne for steering the reset with courage forged in decades of unstinting duty. Social feeds exploded, praise, trolling, furious debate, exactly the engagement curve strategists predicted would keep the monarchy glued into the bloodstream of public conversation. Anne drove home to Gatcombe Park, hung her uniform, unlocked a small mahogany drawer, and withdrew William's envelope. She reread the 11 lines, fingertips pausing over the phrase, shared duty. Then, for the first time in many years, she allowed herself a slow, satisfied exhale, proof that even the hardest steel can soften when tempered by trust. Weeks blurred by. Think tank analysts crunched early numbers. Mental health grants up 40%, household spending down 22%, youth approval soaring to levels unseen since Diana hugged AIDS patients on live TV. Palace tour bookings remained robust. Souvenir sales of mini coronets actually increased, irony proving tourists adore streamlined pomp as much as the old kind. The monarchy, leaner yet somehow larger, marched on. Its mettle faced a brutal test when Hurricane Maud ripped across Cornwall, submerging villages and displacing thousands. Within 24 hours, Anne's new naval logistics hub funneled emergency funds and cadet volunteers into sodden town halls. William and Catherine arrived in rolled-up sleeves, passing out blankets and listening without press handlers thrusting scripts. Cameras caught William quoting his mother's mantra, "You're not alone," to a tear-soaked shopkeeper. Even newspapers that once sniffed cost-cutting cosplay headlined the response, "Monarchy moves faster than Whitehall." As floodwaters receded, a grateful mayor declared the Windsor Rapid Response Fund the swiftest aid tap I've ever seen. Critics admitted the slimmed-down crown had proved nimbler than government bureaucracy, a punchline turned prophecy. Now, the institution stands poised between peril and promise. One clandestine message, exchanged beneath chandeliers long before dawn, has redrafted the blueprint for Britain's oldest brand. It shows real power doesn't shout from gilded balconies. It whispers in ink, in trust, in the willingness of two determined royals to gamble everything on relevance. Do you believe Prince William's radical roadmap will secure the monarchy's future, or has he risked the crown on an impossible modern dream? Let your voice ring in the comments below, spark debate with fellow viewers, hit like if you crave more royal revelations, and smash subscribe so you never miss the next untold chapter from behind palace walls. Thanks for watching. Until next time.